Hey guys, I get it. Running an agency is freaking hard work. If anyone gets that, it's me. And you may be sitting there going, a partner is the solution to all my problems. It's the promised land. This is what's going to sell the agency's growth. If I get a business partner in, we can combine and share strategies and share two heads are better than one. But it doesn't always necessarily work like that. In today's video, I'm going to talk about why it may not be the best idea to get a business partner, especially in those early stages. But I'm going to talk about some of the pros and cons just based on my experience, and let's get straight into it. Okay, guys, so as you can hear, I'm a little bit sick, but I'm still coming to you. I'm committed to this channel. 3 videos a week is what we're aiming for. And today, I'm going to talk about a topic that gets brought up a lot in my coaching calls, and that is about business partners. So yeah, SMA is hard work. And a lot of times you find you enjoy specific parts of it, and there's other parts that you wish you could just hand off to someone else. And a business partner feels like the ultimate solution for that. You can find someone that's emotionally and economically invested in the success. You can combine heads and you can make it really work. And there is some amazing success stories of that working. Look at Charlie and Bo, for instance. A lot of you have found me because of Charlie and Bo. Those guys are business partners, and they've been business partners for a very long time. And for years and years, they had never met. They just had synergies that made them really good business partners. But for every Bo and Charlie, there is a whole bunch of businesses that fail in the SMMA space because of partnerships. And let me explain why that is. So before we get into some of the cons, I don't want to make this a negative video. Before I get into some of the cons, let's talk about some of the pros of having a business partner in the SMMA space. Obviously, one is spreading the workload. That is obviously a huge pro of having a business partner. If you have two heads that are focused and committed to one area of the business, or committed to the business in general, you're going to get more stuff done. And that there's no one can argue with that. With a business partnership, you're going to get more stuff done because you are combining resources and you're combining efforts into one universal goal most of the time. And that's another massive pro is that you have someone to bounce ideas and concepts with. I must admit, I have a business partner, but it's my wife. So it's a different dynamic than, say, getting someone that you've just met in a group, or you're a friend or family or whatever. It's a different dynamic because my wife and I have been together for 10 years, 11 years before we partnered up in a business setting. So we knew everything about each other. We knew our strengths and weaknesses, and that worked really well. But I must admit, one of the negatives of not having a business partner is that you don't have someone to bounce ideas off. So when you're sitting on top of the pile, it's really hard to get clear ideas and clarity from someone that understands what you're going through. So when you have a business partner, especially in the SMMA space, you have someone that's in the trenches with you that you can bounce ideas off, that understands unequivocally what you're going through. So together you can work on, you're on the same page when you come up with ideas and concepts. It's not, oh, you don't understand what it's like to run a business. You don't understand what it's like to do this, because you're in the same boat. So I really think that's just one of the biggest pros. Another massive pro is obviously sharing resources. If you're both running an SMA in the same sort of niche, and one of you has resources, and the other person has resources, and you combine them together, obviously 1 + 1 = 3 a lot of the time. And combining those resources is going to put you in a better position financially, strategically, and just ability to get the job done if you didn't have those resources combined. And I think another thing is that if you find a partner that has skills or has areas of enjoyment or areas of genius that are different to yours, it can be really rewarding and filling, because it almost is like creating a clone of yourself that does something they enjoy. So you might be right into sales, and then the person you partner up with might be right into the technical side and delivering a service and really doing that. And then you guys combining together as like Captain Planet combining and combining all the powers to create one super being. Now, that's in theory how it's supposed to work. In practice, partnerships are a lot more dynamic in that. And I'm going to talk about some of the cons of partnerships and why most of them actually fail. And this is probably the reason why I would suggest you don't enter a partnership when you're first starting an SMMA, because it's like a marriage. Once you're committed to it and once you're in it, it's very hard to dismantle. And a lot of times, to dismantle a business partnership, you've got to dismantle the business. So I don't know the exact numbers, but a lot of businesses, when they fail, it's because of business partnerships. It's not because they don't have a product or a service or a fit. It's just because you have two business partners that want to move in different directions. And because of that, then the business has to be split in two or has to be dissolved for it to actually work. So let's talk about some of the cons, guys. All right. So one of the biggest cons of having a business partner is you have two heads of the snake. And one of the things I think has made us successful here at My Online Guy is that the decisions that we make are based on the emperor, based on me. So when I make a decision, I don't have to really run it past anyone. My wife and I are generally in cahoots and we've had talked about it. But if we want to go down a different direction, no one can really question that. And I'm one of those guys that likes to make decisions quickly. So I've got ADHD. I like to, oh yeah, we're going to go in this direction. We're going to go do that. We're going to go do this. And I'm open to input, but generally once I've made my mind up, that's the decision we're going with. And I don't want to have a peer-reviewed roundtable every time I want to make a decision. But when you have a business partnership, you really need to do that. And that is a big con if you're someone that likes to make decisions and you have a clear strategic direction you want to take the business. And then you have someone that you've partnered up with that doesn't necessarily have the same thought process and strategic direction. It can really create a chasm between you and your business partner. It's probably one of the biggest reasons people fail in business partnerships, especially in the SMMA space, is different strategic direction. Because you think about it, right? Let's say you're into sales and your business partner's into business, like service delivery and fulfillment. He has different goals, ideas, and direction because his lens is through service delivery than you, who's in sales. So you're going to be like, we need to keep growing the business. We need to add this sales. We need to add these processes to what we do. And he's probably sitting there going, oh, we need to do this fulfillment and we need to do this from service delivery perspective because this isn't right yet. We can't support all these sales. And that naturally creates conflict. And that's the next con is a lot of people that enter business partnerships. And this is my biggest piece of advice for you guys is if you're going to enter a business partnership, you really need to know the other person well before you do it. Because it's one thing when everything's good. If you're running an agency and you're getting plenty of leads and the business is working well, you're probably not going to run into an issue. It's when the agency is not working well is when the issues arise. So people show their true colors under stress and how everyone handles stress is differently. So you may be someone that handles stress well and you just get on and do it. Your mate that you partner up with a business because you both got SMMAs in the real estate niche, he may handle stress and panic. He may go, oh, and like just panic and not be useful at all. And then all of a sudden you guys are butting heads against each other because you have different ideas on how to handle crises, which pop up in SMMAs all the time. So you really need to sit down and really understand how this person is going to act at the best of times and the worst of times. Because if you don't know that, it's too late to decide that once you turn your business into a partnership. The next thing, and one of the biggest another con of running an SMMA with a partner is that you guys may have different ideas and goals on where you're trying to take the agency. So you may be wanting to go in there and just bust your hole and work 40 hours a week and really take this thing off the ground through hard work. Your business partner might be wanting to sit on a beach and drink pina coladas and do 2 hours a day. That is a huge conflict because one of you is going to be doing a heap of work and the other one's not going to be doing a heap of work. And that will create a huge amount of resentment and conflict. And it's generally not so much business partnerships, the partners in the business that will have conflict. It will be the people around them. So I used to see this a lot in the farming industry, in the agricultural niche. You'll have a lot of brothers that are partnered up on a farm. So the dad will die and then two brothers will take over the farm. And the brothers have been used to working with each other all their life. So they know what one can do. The other one knows their place. So one might be good with machinery. One might be good with the business side. And then all of a sudden they get married and they have wives and the wives are sitting in the background going, oh, why does Jimmy get away with not doing anything and you're doing all the work, and starts planting seeds in their head. And all of a sudden it creates conflict. And I've seen that personally twice in the agricultural space where really good business partnerships, where the brothers really understand each other, their strengths and weaknesses. They do different parts of the farm, just get derailed by people around them saying, oh, why is he getting to go on holidays and you're not? You should be able to do this too. You're a 50-50 partner. And that can really derail a good business partnership. The next thing I would say is a con with business partnerships is that you are splitting equity. You are splitting the profits. And if the person you're working with ultimately doesn't work out and they don't do what they say they're going to do, you're basically giving away half or a big chunk of your business to someone else that could be just getting a free ride for the sake of a good sales pitch. They could have come to you and said, oh, Jimmy, you do sales really well. I do service delivery really well. Let's combine. You haven't done enough diligence. You start a business together. And then all of a sudden you find out they're not as good at what you do, even though you're really good at sales. All of a sudden you're carrying someone. You're going to have to work around that person. They become a massive boat anchor to your business. It's one thing I'm very glad I did is not took a business partner on at the very start. And to be fair, I actually had a business partner that I was going to partner with my online guy on that I dropped about 3 days in because I was like, he's not pulling his weight. Let me nip this on the butt real early, pay him out. And it was like $1,000 or something, gave him $1,000 and then just said, look, I'm going to do this on my own because I hated the idea of giving a big chunk of the revenue of this business to someone that wasn't as committed as I was. And the only way I found that out is after the fact. But let's talk about some of the ways you can make a business partnership work and really succeed. So I have a client who's an accountant, and it's two accountant firms that joined together. And they gave me some amazing advice. I actually have an interview with them up here in the click about how they run their business partnership because they had two accounting firms. They only knew each other at cursory, and they decided strategically it made the most sense to combine and merge and become business partners. Now, what they said to me was the reason they were successful with their business partnership was a few things. Firstly, they were both on the same level when they joined up. So they both had the same amount of cash. They both had the same amount of profile in the industry. They both knew each other and what the strengths and weaknesses were of their existing accounting firm. So when they came together, they were able just to lay everything on the table and be equals, which is a massive thing you need to make sure you do when you're starting a business partnership, especially in SMMA. You need to make sure that the person you're working with is equal to you. If you've put all this time equity into growing the agency, then this person needs to buy in some way to make sure that it's an equal footing. So if you spend $10,000 getting the agency off the ground, they really need to inject $10,000 of cash into the agency to make sure that you set off on an equal footing. Because if you don't do that, you will grow to resent the fact that they've been given a whole bunch of stuff and you haven't been reimbursed for it. So you need to make sure you're on an equal footing. That's what these guys did. The next thing you need to do is make sure that you sit down and nut out every single possible scenario you can think of as far as a business partnership. Now, what Aaron and Ryan told me is that they sat down and they laid out all the possible scenarios. Okay, so what happens if I work 4 days a week? What happens if I work 3 days a week? What happens if I take a holiday? What happens if I'm sick? What happens if I can only work 2 days a week, but I need to bring someone in? They basically laid everything they could think of on the table, and they were able to nut out a solution that worked for them because they laid everything on the table and they made sure that no rock was unturned and they covered most of the scenarios they could think of in their head. Now, there'll probably be a portion of you guys going, oh, that's way too hard to do. And I don't want to be in that situation where it's like a prenup. To be completely honest, if you're not willing to do that, then don't enter a partnership. If you can't be 100% transparent and have tough conversations with your business partner, then it will fail and you're better off not having a partnership at all, honestly. So they reckon that's the biggest reason it's successful is they know that if Aaron goes on holidays, what's the recourse of that? Does Ryan get holidays? Does Ryan get reimbursed as a business owner? Does it go into this like pool of time? And they basically laid everything on the table, had their arguments at the very start so that once they got in, they could just get to work and do the business. The other thing I would suggest you make sure you do in the SMMA space specifically, if you're going to have a business partner, is make sure you have your own kingdoms, right? The best partnerships that work the best are the Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak kind of relationships where you have one person that focuses on one kingdom, which might be sales, and you have the other person focus on one kingdom, which might be the technical side or the service delivery. That way, you can take ownership of those roles and then you can meet in the middle. This is why I think Bo and Charlie's relationship works so well, is that Bo is focused on the service delivery and the fulfillment side, and Charlie is focused on the sales side. And they know their roles and they know their responsibilities and they know how to veto each other's decisions in those roles. So, for instance, if I was business partner with someone else, I'd probably take on the sales side of that business. Even though I'd really know service delivery, I would go, that's his kingdom, that's my kingdom. Even though I think we could do service delivery potentially differently, it's not my position to go and change that. We need to have conversations about that and go, look, can we try this because it's affecting the sales? You then become a protector of your kingdom and he becomes a protector of his kingdom and you advocate for that. And that's the best kind of partnership because then you won't have this problem of stepping on each other's toes. You just focus on your area of genius. He focuses on his area of genius, and then you get the 1 + 1 = 3 scenario. Okay, so what happens if you've entered a partnership and it's absolutely rat shit and you don't want to be in it anymore and you're stuck in it? The first place you need to go is you need to have the conversation with your business partner on why it's not working and why you feel it's not working. You need to lay everything on the table and you need to have that conversation and you need to make sure that you know what you're going to say going in. So you need to write stuff down. So if you're in the sales side and that's your little kingdom and you feel like the service delivery is not working, you need to have a plan going in there and talk to them. The worst thing you could possibly do is just sit there and say nothing and just stew on it, hope it gets better. Because they're probably thinking the same thing of you. It's like, oh, the sales. So when you lay everything on the table and you really nut it out, generally you can salvage a business relationship, but sometimes you can't. And then you need to be honest and pragmatic and go, as a financial decision, is splitting the revenue with this guy and splitting the business with this guy or girl the best financial decision for me? And if it's not, you need to be honest about that and be willing to walk away from what you've built and start again. Because it's very difficult to split an agency up into two separate kingdoms. I've seen it happen once with a friend of mine, and now there's two of his business, one a UK branch and one a US branch. That seemed to work okay for them, but ultimately it's still very messy. It creates confusion because now they're going in two different directions. There's confusion in the market of the brands. Guys, I think ultimately a partnership, a business partnership is a good idea if you find the right person. Now, would I do it at the very start with my SMMA as a pain avoidance thing? Probably not, because that's why you would probably be doing it at the start. But once I was established and once I had the processes and things in place, and I feel like this person is going to be, I could enter a marriage with this person and really do a 1+1 = 3 with them. I think it's worth exploring if you find the right person like Bo and Charlie did. So Bo had the agency before Charlie started, but Charlie came in, bought in and became part of it because it made the most strategic sense at the time. And you look at them now and they're absolutely killing. This is Charlie Morgan at Easy Grow and Bo over at Easy Grow. You look at them now and they're just killing it. All right, guys, I'm going to finish this here. Like I said, I'm not feeling 100%. So I really just wanted to get this video up because it's an important topic to talk about. If you have any questions, as always, leave them in the comments. If you want me to make a video about something, leave it in the comments. Make sure to subscribe because I don't want to lose the motivation of doing these videos, and I'm only going to make them if people watch them. So guys, hopefully this has been helpful. I'll catch you in the next video.